Hello again, YouTube. Lovell is prior enlisted Marine, military history buff, and just overall somebody who does a lot of research. And some of the research I've found recently, it actually shows that there was a massive increase in the followers of, say, Ted Cruz and Marjorie Green Taylor and other people on the right or Republican side of the political spectrum. And there were less followers for those that are like Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, those that are on the left or Democratic side of things. And I'm going to ask, why is that? Well, I have a theory surrounding that one, and call it a conspiracy theory if you will, but it is a viable theory nonetheless. And it is because back in 2016, about 6 years ago, there were people that were jumping up and down about we need to censor these people harder, and they were talking about people who were on the Republican side of things. It's arguable that YouTube is doing it right now because I've already gotten a misinformation strike, and nobody has been able to explain to me how January 6th is not a riot, nor was what happened in the summer of 2020 was not a riot. There's just nobody who's been able to explain that. So, as far as I'm concerned, they both are. So, I may have to redo that video one day. But anyhow, YouTube did actually put a strike on it, calling it misinformation. And I actually kind of wear it like a badge of honor. Hey, they're so afraid of what I have to say that they decided to strike one of my videos and pull it, and they haven't let me put it back on since. I'm going to redo it just to bug them again, and that's all there is to it. And if I bug them enough, yeah, they might cancel my channel. I'm not really worried about it. I'll just take it over to Rumble, and I'll just share the videos on Rumble from this point forward. And I don't care. So they can do that all they want. Don't care. But anyhow, Twitter was actually being pressured by even Democratic congressmen to do something similar. I believe it was Cory Booker who actually called for Twitter and other social media to restrict more hate speech, as they called it, or more to keep Russian disinformation out. And how I was like, okay, even if you counted my one strike as dis or misinformation, it was like, come on, how did Russia come up with that one? I mean, seriously, yeah, you can look at the video and tell. Both of them look like riots to me. You can't really tell the difference. Um, so that being said, Twitter has actually written their algorithms to where I'm going to be using my right hand to represent the Republicans and the left hand to represent the Democrats. They've actually been making it so that way the Democratic tweets get elevated. But not only are the Democratic tweets been getting elevated, but the Republican tweets have been suppressed. So when you go onto Twitter, you're more likely to see these. So a little bit more Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar than you are to see, say, Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson, or Marjorie Green Taylor. It's like, okay. So this change has happened after the announcement of Elon Musk has officially in the process of purchasing Twitter. The deal has been accepted. He's going to buy it unless some cosmic phenomena actually happens and stops it. Well, now I believe they're more like this, on equal footing, and based on the viability of what is being said. So, obviously, if you're so far out there that you're basically saying that, hey, Joe Biden's responsible for everything from baldness to cancer, obviously that's not still not going to get very much traction. But at the same time, some of the ideas of the Green New Deal at one point advocated for the destruction of all existing buildings in favor of building better, more green buildings. And it's like, what? That did get traction, and it's because of that little discrepancy where the Democratic views were elevated and the Republicans' ones were suppressed. And in all honesty, you hear that and you're thinking this is absolutely out of control crazy, right? But now they're on this. So the next time there's a crazy idea that comes out of, say, Ocasio-Cortez's mouth, which honestly I've heard more than my fair share, and it would naturally drop on its own. And that's because of the fact that people are just going to be like, yeah, geez, that's crazy. Let's get away from this. Let's look at something else. Where when Ted Cruz he's done this. He's written a bill where it suggests that we stay on daylight savings time all the time. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of setting my clock back and forth 2 times a year. I would prefer that we just leave it alone and call it done. Well, his idea might gain a little bit more traction. It's not even that big of a deal, really. Or somebody like, say, when Marco Rubio suggested to put us on a silver standard, that would have actually gotten more traction as well. And I actually loved that particular idea. It's like, honestly, when it came to the 2016 election, when it came to the 2016 primaries, my favorites were Ted Cruz first, then I liked Donald Trump, then I liked Marco Rubio. 1, 2, and 3. Although, if I had it, since we had such a broad bench at the time, Ben Carson might even surpass Rubio a little bit. So Marco Rubio would be 4th. And Ben Carson said 3 words that I never thought I'd hear any politician say while he was on the presidential campaign. When he was asked about why he changed his position on subsidies, he said, "I was wrong." Very refreshing. Very, very refreshing. And I loved the fact that he went back and did some research, figured out he was wrong, and was bold enough to say it. Good job, Dr. Carson. I love you for that one. That was a breath of fresh air right there. So, when it came to my turn to do the primary in March of 2016, I voted for Ted Cruz because I liked Ted Cruz. Virginia ended up going to Marco Rubio, which I was okay with that. I would have preferred it be Ted Cruz, but I can't control that part. So, but anyhow, now you're going to hear more ideas coming from Ted Cruz. Yes, they might let Donald Trump back. Oh my gosh, there are some people that go, Orange Man, bad. There's a reason from 2016 to 2020, Trump derangement syndrome was a common phrase in the Republican lexicon. It is because they actually did this. You can find the news reports where they tried to blame a Hurricane Harvey, as I recall, on Donald Trump. And actually, there was one of the guest speakers one of the people who called in to Rush Limbaugh's show around the same time, and they said Trump looked out upon the storm and said, "Beasts beyond the waters," and the storm stopped. And Rush Limbaugh found that hilarious. That was great. He even put it on one of the ads for his radio show, and I mean that was funny to hear, even if it was 20, 50 times. It still put a smile on my face because it was just way out there. But anyhow, anything that's way out there, whether left, right, in the middle, doesn't upside down, it doesn't matter. It should fall flat, and it would fall flat naturally. It's like you'd hear about these things and you go, "What am I watching?" And then move on. What am I looking at here? You move on. Somebody who's that out of their minds. But what I think is going on here is quite simply the Twitter employees are actually trying to save their own skin and coincidentally their own job. Because Elon Musk does not believe that the algorithm should favor one side or another. It should be flat. Whatever is trending is whatever is trending. So they've already rewritten the algorithm beforehand, so that way they can actually go see if what wasn't. And Elon Musk could point at it and go, so why did Marjorie Taylor Greene get tens of thousands more followers when this change was implemented? I don't know. Uh huh. So, but and why did Tucker Carlson get hundreds of thousands more followers when this happened? I don't know. How come Ilhan Omar and Ocasio Cortez lost followers at the same? That's because you were coming in. Is probably what they would argue. So, it's some of these questions. It's part of the reason why I like asking these why questions is because I want to bring up the topic of discussion. I want to provoke a little bit of a discussion, and even if it gets a little bit heated, as long as we stay on the topic, we're okay. It's like recently I just had somebody who pointed out that Hyperloop was not necessarily a viable technology, and for the moment, I might be able to might agree with that. I could see that. I mean, it, the first electric car rolled out of a factory in 1900, and I was like, come on, that predated the Model T. If I don't think it's ready now, of course it wasn't ready back then. So I might be able to agree to that, and we can go back and forth on this. And I was like, I do believe there is potential for it to actually get better, and that's part of the reason that part of the reason that free speech is so important. It is basically one of those cases of we need to make sure that everybody's ideas flow freely, so that way the best ideas, like the cream, rise to the top. So as a result, the best ideas become available to everybody, and somebody who actually likes the idea and has the ability to make it so can help them get them over the top. As like personally, I would love to be able to take a crack at doing a design called a transmissionless design that was first done in 1903. Problem is I don't have enough money to do the refit on my truck that I would use as the test bed for it. And that would be, and the transmissionless design is something that I would very much like to discuss with investors about. But I also need to be able to put AutoCAD on my computer to finish the design of portion of it. And considering I have a family full of mechanics, we could put it together ourselves. So, and I have a brother, a machinist, who can help me actually finish, machine the parts for me that I need to make it happen. But it does have potential, and in fact, they've been experimenting with it for new military vehicles because it is potentially very insane. It does have a lot of power behind it, and it's very fuel efficient. In fact, it would be very nice if we could put it into a tank because Abrams gets gallons to the mile. The transmissionless design would potentially be able to do this as actually gallons to the mile. I said that right. it uses more fuel in gallons than it does go in miles. So that's pretty bad. It would be nice if, say, Abrams could only do like 10 miles to the gallon because that would be a massive improvement for that tank. It would actually eliminate the one real big weakness of that machine and make it so that way it was a lot more effective if you could actually get that done. But it's one of those cases where free speech ideas need to come to the surface, and that includes even with other things. And I mean, even if and this is how absolutist I am. Even if a person is outright racist, at least then we'd know who they are. I would prefer to know who they are, so that way I can go away. I don't want to be anywhere near you. And as a result, they would get fewer followers than somebody who's like, say, the reincarnation of Martin Luther King, who actually has their own I Have a Dream speech waiting in the wings. And they just aren't getting the traction because they just happen to have the wrong political views. I don't care what their political views are. I just want to see that everybody gets their fair shake. But that is what I think is going on, is they're actually changing the algorithm prematurely, so that way everybody can actually be on that equal footing. So that way one opinion isn't up here and the other one is way down here. And because the people who've been on Twitter up to this point have been trying to make you believe that there's only one opinion that matters. Theirs. And I do say it's theirs because they surveyed the group that works at Twitter, and they found out that less than 1% of them are independent or Republican. And let's put that in perspective. You can't find, it's easier to find a Republican in Washington, D.C., which voted 93% for Joe Biden, a Democrat, in the last election. Over 90%. Than it is at Twitter. And that is insane. Absolutely bonkers. You could find a Republican easier in Portland or Seattle, LA, or in New York, Chicago, Albany, than you can at Twitter right now. So as a result, of course, they're going to want to favor one side over the other. I understand that. I'm acknowledging my own biases here. I am very much a Republican, and with very few exceptions, I agree with Republicans on a lot of things. There's a lot of good principles right there. And it's like, nah. And one of the things that is one of my more fundamental principles is that I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That includes the First Amendment, which is the right to free speech, the right to a free press, the right to freedom of religion, and the right to peaceably assemble. And when you're talking about something that is effectively a public town square, if somebody wants to say bing tittle biddle bong, that's up to them. And that's how it should be. Now, does anybody want to hear somebody going bing tittle biddle bong? I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a thing. But if they want to be heard, they're going to say something that they believe is actually a good idea, and then they'll share it with everybody else. And if it does turn out to sound like a good idea, everybody's going to go, that guy's got a point. So, I believe Elon Musk is making a very good move here. I want him to continue to do this, and this will be an incredibly good thing going forward. But I've been Lovell, you've been awesome, and I hope this finds you having a good day.